interviews, I never, but never, but never discuss my private life. That is mine.
Yes.
Now,
But
she's made the decision to sell it to the papers. Fine.
But the thing is, Alan, for a prostitute, a woman to be a prostitute, it takes two to do the act of intercourse.
I am not by any means criticising her for her job, Audrey.
No.
I have a lot of respect for some prostitutes.
No, they say a woman is a prostitute, but what name have they got for her partner, the man who is with her and makes her a prostitute? What name do they have for a man? It's a woman who is the prostitute all the time, but what name do they have for the man who goes?
Well, they don't need a name for the man. The man is her client, and that is the name.
Well, I think really it seems very loaded against
Audrey,
women.
I'm forced to say to you that you are actually making the point that the word prostitute means something wrong. I don't think that. I think a prostitute is like many other services offered in our society. There's nothing wrong with prostitutes, the people. There's nothing wrong with the role they perform.
But the word can be used as an abuse and an insult.
But they are not using it in the press as an abuse. They're using it as a description to differentiate between the different people who give evidence.
It seems to scream it in a sensational way. The prostitute Mary or whatever her name is. And
but perhaps they're actually doing her a favour there by not totally identifying her.
No, they give her full name, don't they?
Well, what is your complaint then? You're either complaining that they do or they don't. I can't remember which now.
It's just that they call her that all the time the prostitute.
But Audrey, that is the whole point of the case. That is exactly who is giving evidence.
I think it's totally against women.
It's not against women. She is giving evidence as a prostitute.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's just the description in the paper and on the news.
But Audrey, I can't get it through to you. It is English language. If you want to describe who was giving evidence, if they just said Marie Smith gave evidence, everyone would say it a pig and hell she. So they'd have to say Marie Smith, the prostitute in question.
Yes.
So they'd have to describe her as the prostitute one way or the other. It's got to be done. It's not our fault she's a prostitute. It may well, there is a very strong argument that says it could be society's fault. But that is her quasi-chosen profession. That is what she does for a living. I do not criticise her for that. You clearly do.
No,
One
I
of
don't
us is wrong.
criticise her, no. I criticise the media. If she was a shop assistant, we wouldn't be getting shop assistants.
I'm afraid you would if the case was relevant. If it was, we've been talking this evening about shoplifting, haven't we?
Actually, I've only just got on.
Okay, well, we have, let me tell you. We've been talking about shoplifting this evening and about store detectives. Mm-hmm. And if the case was brought to court and a shop assistant gave evidence, she would be described, or he would be described in the press as the shop assistant said, the store detective said, the manager said. That is how it would be described.
Yes, but not
now.
In a
Jeffrey Archer is
described
as Jeffrey Archer because that is the best description for him because everybody knows who you mean then.
Mm-hmm.
But if they said Mabel Riley or whatever, no one knows who the hell you're on about. The relevance is that she is the prostitute. Yes, it is sensational, but it's a fairly sensational case, isn't it?
Yes, but I
the man
think
has
it
lost,
reflects against women in general.
Well, I don't agree with you, and we'll just have to agree to differ on that. It doesn't reflect against women. She is just a prostitute. That is neither good nor bad. It's just another job.
Okay, Alan.
All right, love.
All right.
Thanks for your
Bye.
call. How do Leslie? We lost you last time. How do Neil?
How do, Alan?
What do you want?
I'd like to talk about dogs, please.
Go on.
Well, I know of a dog that is very, very intelligent. I was at the local dog racing course last Saturday, and this particular dog broke the course record by, I'm not exactly sure of the exact time, but in the region of 10 seconds in a race that would normally be raced in 30 seconds. So as you can imagine, the usual time would sort of be within about a second or 2 seconds, but this particular dog beat the rest of the field by 10 seconds. It was actually disqualified in the end, but for different reasons. But it actually beat the rest of the field by 10 seconds and broke the record by 10 seconds.
You don't really think I'm going to walk into this, dear?
Pardon?
Granted.
No. It did. It did it.
Fine.
So, if a dog isn't intelligent, then how did this dog manage to do it, beat the record by 10 seconds, and yet it wasn't intelligent? Tell me.
Well, I don't have to tell you. I've told you, I'm not walking into your trap.
I haven't set a trap for you all. I'm trying to...
Well, fine. Well, I've nothing else to say then. If you think winning a race by 20 seconds and getting disqualified is clever,
10.
fine.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, 30 seconds, quarter of an hour. I don't care.
It still did the course. It wasn't...
It got disqualified.
Well, yeah,
Wasn't that clever then,
by
was
the
it?
by.
Well, it's not by the by. It didn't win.
It
didn't
all
win.
right. In the judge's book, it didn't actually win the race.
Did it win?
Pardon?
Did it win?
It came first.
I asked you, did it win?
Yes, it won.
It won.
It won.
Do you think it knows it was disqualified?
It doesn't know it was disqualified, no.
Why not?
Well, when the dog raced...
Why doesn't it know it was
Because-
disqualified?
Because nobody told it.
Well, if I phoned it up now and said, excuse me, Spot, you were disqualified the other night, do you think he'd be upset?
It wouldn't be upset, no.
Why not?
Because in its own particular eyes, in fact, it won the race.
In other words, it doesn't know the rules.
I don't think really that...
Does it or doesn't it? Does it know the rules?
The rules...
Does it know the rules?
Of course.
Does it or doesn't it? Yes or no? Does the dog know the rules?
When you say the
Does
rules,
the dog know
which rules do you mean, Alan?
The rules by which the decision as to whether it has won or not.
Then I would imagine that before
We
it...
don't want your imagination. Just tell me whether it does or does not know the rules.
As far as the dog was concerned, it won the race.
I'm not asking you what the dog decided. I'm asking you whether it knew the rules.
It knew
Did the
its own
dog,
rules.
does the dog know the rules of the race in which it is taking part? When Sebastian Coe or Steve Ovett or all those run, do they know the rules?
Of course.
They know the rules, do they?
Of course, yes.
They're taking part. They're human beings taking part in the race. They know the rules.
They
And
know
when
the
they win,
rules
and when they win,
because
they...
of experience. They know the rules because
Well, how long's this dog been racing?
this was its first race.
Its first race. Do you think it'll know the rules next time?
It will know the rules next time, definitely.
It will it?
Yeah.
It'll know the rules.
But
It will understand that it was disqualified last time, even though you're telling me that it doesn't yet know that.
it will understand that next time it will have to take a different strategy if it's going to be accepted.
When
as
you
winning
say
the
it'll
race.
understand, do you think someone will sit down with it and say, look, now,
Pardon?
when you say it'll understand, do you mean it'll be trained on a repetitive rote system, or it'll have explained to it what it did wrong and it won't do it again? Which?
It will have explained to it what it did wrong.
So they'll just sit down and say, look, Spot, what you did there, you really shouldn't have done because it's against the rules, and he'll say, and next time it won't do it.
It will realise that the reason that it didn't win...
Excuse me.
The reason that it didn't win
Excuse
the-
me, Neil. You've already told me that it thinks it did win.
It thought it won,
No,
but it was unaware...
Neil. I asked you a few moments ago whether this dog knew it had not won the race, and you said no.
It
and
did
it's,
not.
No,
No,
Neil.
it didn't realise.
Neil, shut up.
Sorry.
I know what you said. You don't need to repeat it. I'll do it for you. What you said was that the dog thinks it won. You then went. Listen, Neil. You then went on to say that the dog thinks it's won because the dog came first.
Correct.
Are you now going to tell me that someone is going to teach it that it didn't win the race and why it didn't win the race, or are they just going? Or are they just going to teach it how it should have done?
They're going to tell it how it should have done.
So they're not going to bother saying, look, I'm sorry, Spot, you were disqualified. Here's why you were disqualified. Try not to do it again. Or are they going to train it the right way? Tell me, Neil. Are they going to explain to it?
They're going to...
Are they going to explain to it?
They're going to explain to it.
So if I just said to that dog, look, what you did wrong was this, it wouldn't need any more input at all, we wouldn't have to train it in any way, we just say, this is what you did wrong, and it'd say, okay, and it wouldn't do it again. Tinner lassie, happy as a pig in muck, right?
They wouldn't. They wouldn't allow
Is that
it
right?
to use... They won't allow to use the motorbike next time.
Ah, I knew you'd get your joke in somewhere. Good night.
Good night, Alan.
You have been Beswicked.
Sometimes we Beswick the Pratts as well.
The fabulous Norweb Super Saver Sale is now on. Big bargains on famous name brands. Tasty savings on cookers and microwaves. Max reductions on bags. Warming offers on heating and showers. Cool cuts on refrigeration. Sound bargains on audio. Clean savings on laundry and dishwashers. See the Super Saver Sale at your Norweb shop now.
Switch on to better value.
Come on, Grandad, tell us about that time you brought a new car from Bradshaw's.
Well, it went a long time ago now, lad. It was 1st of August, 1977. We're only young, but had a good eye for a good deal. And I was wise enough then to know that Bradshaw's are the biggest and best selection of new Ford cars in the area.
What registration was it in 1977?
Let me see.
C, Grandad?
Oh, no, it was the...
Get a great deal on any new Ford
no,
this
it was
August
E-
E-Day at Bradshaw's. You'll want to tell your grandchildren about it.
I'll do, Barry.
All right, Alan. I'd like to talk about national service, please.
Go on then.
And I think you should bring it back.
Why?
Because, you know, the way the streets are going with the drugs and that. And, you know...
Well, there's evidence of drugs in the army.
Pardon?
There's evidence of drug use in the army.
I haven't heard of that. Where'd you get that information from?
People have been prosecuted. There's actually a captain of the armed forces currently under arrest in Sweden for smuggling drugs.
No, yep. Okay, maybe it's an isolated case, though, isn't it?
That isn't that particular case is isolated. It's out there in Sweden on its own. But there are cases of soldiers being prosecuted. There were stories recently, and by that I mean in the last 12 months, of some of the guardsmen in Buckingham Palace actually smoking dope.
Was there? I didn't hear about that.
Well, perhaps you'd better do some more research before you come on. I'll do Mike.
Hi, Alan. Got a couple of points. First one is, I rang a couple of weeks back about a car I've got, which turns out to be subject of a total loss claim. So you might like to know what the latest situation is.
I would love to.
Okay, I went to a garage in Lytham, where I'm working at the moment, and told them what the score is. And they're being very, very fair. Although they're making a very low offer on the vehicle, they're giving me a very, very good deal on finance, a very low interest rate, which pretty well makes up for the reduction in the offer on the vehicle. So hopefully all will be well and I'll pick up my new vehicle on the 1st of August.
There we are. An honourable car dealer.
Absolutely.
Didn't think we'd ever find one.
Well,
my apologies to Bradshaw's who supply my motorcade. They're wonderful. I don't want to be walking after August.
Well,
Go on.
This is true. So I'm rather made up and pleased about that. And the other quick point is on the shoplifting aspect. What I always find a good idea, if I go into a store and don't have a basket or trolley or whatever, and I pick something up off a shelf with the obvious intention of paying for it, but want to carry on looking around for anything else, is I tend to hold it in the air in such an awkward manner that I know damn well that I've got it in my hand because it's so awkward to carry. And that way I don't forget to pay for it when I come out.
It's a good idea, I suppose. I've got this wonderful picture of you, but never mind.
Well,
hope you never buy a bike.
Well, no. It might look a bit silly, but...
but it does the trick.
It certainly does the trick. It's a good aid memoir.
Right, well, I can only say that if others want to use that, they are welcome to. Basically, what I do in situations like that is say, go on, arrest me, I dare you, I'll make you famous.
Yeah, well, you're maybe in a slightly different situation.
But last time it happened, it is quite disturbing, to be honest.
I'm sure it is. I'm thankful it's never happened to me.
No, it will if you're as thick as me. Anyway, Mike, thank you for that.
Okay, cheers,
good luck
Alan.
with the cat. Now do Johnny.
Skate and...
Very droll. I'll do Stephen.
How do, Alan?
What do you want?
I want to talk about going for a driving test.
Go on then.
Well, it was my brother, really. He was taking lessons and in a Fiesta. And when it come to his test date, he took it in a Mini. Are they allowed to do that?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Only, he's never you know, he's not used to them sort of cars.
Well, the answer to the question is still yes. It's not the examination board's fault.
No.
Okay.
Okay, Alan.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Ta-ra.
Telephone number if you want to join us on the phone in is Preston 561,000. It's very nearly news time, so we won't go to any more calls now. But you might like to book your call and get ready, because we'll be in full flow after the midnight news. Preston 561,000. If you're wondering what you're listening to, I can put your mind at rest. You are listening to independent local radio for Lancashire. Red Rose Radio on 301 metres medium wave, 999 kilohertz, and 97.3 VHF, the latter being in stereo.
The Midnight News, this is Therese Birch. Mrs. Thatcher says she'll do nothing to stop American copies of the banned book Spycatcher arriving in Britain, but the Prime Minister is threatening legal action to seize the profits of the book from the author, former MI5 officer Peter Wright. Colonel Oliver North has ended his evidence to the Irangate hearings in triumph, with the White House hoping his straight talk has kept the scandal away from President Reagan. Andrew Mandelstam in Washington reports that North's testimony seems also to have turned round the way most Americans see the illegal arms deal.
For 6 days, nearly 40 hours of solid testimony, Colonel North, seemingly unflappable, gave detailed accounts of his involvement in the worst scandal to hit Washington since Watergate. When it was all over, North made the briefest of statements, thanking the American people.
Were their good wishes, their support, their prayers, through what has been for me and my family a long and difficult ordeal.
The White House has issued an opinion poll indicating for the first time that a majority now supports the Contras in Nicaragua. It attributes the change to North's appearance. Andrew Mandelstam, IRN, Washington.
Detectives hunting the Knightsbridge safe deposit gang now say the upper crust thieves could have pulled off Britain's biggest ever robbery. Police say the haul has certainly topped £20 million, but could easily be much higher, with many depositors refusing to reveal what they've lost. 126 boxes were rifled, with one woman alone losing £5 million. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Brian Worth admits the robbers were cool and daring, but he says they're also violent criminals.
I'd like to make the point they're certainly not heroes. I think one has to accept that it was well planned and audaciously carried out, but it was a violent robbery, and these are violent men, and they used firearms again, not least shotguns. So we are not trying to glamorise them, we're just accepting that they are skillful at what they've done.
The pilot of a light plane has been killed after crashing in thick fog near Exeter in Devon. Police and ambulance services rushed to the scene, but it appears no one else was on board the plane. The area around the crash site has been cordoned off. A judge has told a handicapped mother she can't keep her week-old baby. A secret High Court hearing in Stafford has made the child a ward of court. Deborah Bache reports.
The baby boy was born a week ago to a mentally handicapped mother and physically disabled father. Wolverhampton Council felt the couple would be unable to properly care for the infant and were today successful in their bid to make the child a ward of court. Following the ruling, which was made behind closed doors, Mrs Justice Helbron said all parties agreed the baby should remain in care of the council for an interim period, but the parents will be granted daily access. Another hearing will be held in London next month. Deborah Bache, IRN, Stafford.
2 Britons accused of trying to blackmail the Cypriot government for $15 million have been set free. The prosecution told London's Horsesbury Road Court it had insufficient evidence against 18-year-old Jason Kouparis and his 23-year-old brother Andrew, both from Peckham in South London. Independent Radio News.
Mr. Smith, Nissan Man, are you ready for the car challenge?
I'm ready.
And the gauntlet has been thrown. The deck is cut. The chips are down. The stage.
Okay, I get the message. I'm ready.
We challenge you to sell 300 cars in 150 hours.
I can do it. And for every car I sell, £20 will go to the National Children's Home.
The car challenge starts this Wednesday at Mr. Smith, the Nissan Man, Moore Lane, Bolton.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
Welcome to Wednesday. It's 4 minutes past midnight. The telephone number, if you wish to join us on the phone in, is Preston 561,000. How do Alistair?
How are the apple crumbly, Alan? Alan?
What do you want?
I'd like to talk about the length of time it took me to get through to you.
Never mind. I don't want to. How do Tracy?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Hi. It was just on the matter of shoplifting. I would just like to tell you about an incident which happened to me. Actually, it was about 2 years ago. And I have twin boys. And, you know, the buggies, pushchairs.
Yeah.
I know you haven't got any children, so you might not.
Well, you don't know that. I've never told anyone.
Oh, well,
on the radio, but go on.
Okay, then. So they were both in the buggy. And we're not allowed to mention chain stores, are we? So I was in a big chain store, pushing them along, you know, not thinking anything, not looking at them really, because they were in the buggy and I was going all out my shopping. And when I got outside the store, somebody did stop me and asked me to come back in, and I didn't have any idea what was going on at all. And when I got back in the store, the boys had lifted something off the low shelves. It was actually, it was rather funny really, because it was a pack of 3 men's undergarments, and they'd helped. One had got one off and given it to his brother, and the other one had got a little packet as well. And they were both happily undoing these packets of undergarments and having a nice time with the paper and ones that I had no idea.
From then on?
It was very embarrassing. They took me and the culprits into the office, and, you know, I was just absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And, well, fortunately, they believed me, but I think they were not inclined to at the beginning. It was quite hair-raising, actually.
It's their own fault, isn't it?
Well, the counters are very low.
I know.
And, you know, particularly one baby on his own, but 2, you know, they do tend to encourage each other a little. And, well, I mean, to them, they just saw some nice packets that made a nice noise, and they lifted them off the
and you
counter.
cannot watch them every second of the time.
No, and it was
It's disgraceful. I mean, to be perfectly honest, theft from shops is a major problem. We're all paying too much money for it. However, I don't think we've got to start putting pressure on women with 2 children in order to redeem it. The people that are doing it are the crooks, the nasty little crooks. And if that's the best that store detectives can come up with, well, I'm sorry, they're not worth the light.
Well, it was horrendous, I don't mind telling you. I mean, if my heart had have been slightly dicky, I think it would have gone.
You'd have been a right goner.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, so were the kids as well. I mean, not to mention I nearly killed them when I went out. And really, to be honest with you, the not so funny side of it, I became quite paranoid after that.
As well you might. It's a perfectly understandable response.
And
it's,
still am with them.
It's disgraceful that these stores put things like that to attract not little hands, but to attract people. They then give you a trolley fine for you to put your stuff in. Now, some of them won't let the buggy in the shop. Now, we've got problems there, haven't we? Because they don't let them in the shop. How do you get round? What do? You've got to, if you're going to be running a shop, then you've got to let people in. And you've got to let people in with prams, because we're not going to leave children outside. Because if we do, some grotty little man comes and takes them away.
Exactly.
So you've got to allow it. And we're going to get to the stage eventually where what they'll have to do is get rid of all these superstores and get back to being served over the counter. Because there was very little theft from shops then.
That's right, yeah.
But we might not do that, because that'll affect their profits, and everybody knows it's the filthy lucre that drives people in business.
Well, exactly.
Just like it drives me.
But, I mean, it is, I think, we actually are also in the retail business ourselves. You're talking about a smaller shop, I presume, when you're talking about over-the-counter.
Well, yes, that's what it all used to be, isn't it?
Well, we are a smaller retail shop, and I can honestly say we've been in business 10 years, and let's put it this way, if it's happened, I've never noticed. And I don't think it ever has.
It probably hasn't.
Like you say, it isn't
It's not feasible. You might have had a Mars bar nicked off the display once in a while. and I'll send you the money tomorrow. But but that's how it works, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because
yeah.
you're giving service, that you're there all the time, whereas the other lot, they just let you come and help yourself, and temptation is too great. And when it's little hands that know no better, and there's no reason why they should know better at that age, then I'm sorry, they bring it upon themselves.
Yeah, well, the only complaint I have is they didn't let me keep the 6 pairs of underpants, and the daddy would have loved them.
Well, you should have bought them. All right, love.
Okay, Alan, bye-bye.
That'll do, Simon.
Hello, Alan?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the way the government ruins our natural history.
Then tell me.
Well, I just think it's really bad the way we're building into the countryside, and there's loads of, waste grounds in the cities and that. And, I think we should have built houses there.
A lot of people don't want to live in the city, though.
Yeah, but people shouldn't be let to start making new towns.
Why?
Because it shouldn't, that's right, because it's natural. And it's been around a lot longer than we have.
But if we'd have had that rule always, you'd have had nowhere to live.
Yeah, but I just don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I think we're ruining our natural history.
I don't know that we're ruining the history, but we're certainly ruining the future, if anything. But where are we going to build, then?
We don't have to build.
Where are people going to live, then?
We're going to live in the cities where there's already enough space for them now.
Well, there isn't enough space in most cities.
I think there's plenty of space.
Well,
there's loads of places I know where you can build houses.
Just because you think there's enough space doesn't mean there is. There isn't enough.
Well,
the government already has policies, and indeed is talking about yet more policies to encourage people to come back to the inner cities. But there still won't be enough. And why should people be forced to live in the inner city? I don't want to live in a city. I want to live in the country.
Yeah, alright, you can live in the country if you want, as long as it's one secluded house somewhere, but, I don't think we should be building so many new towns and things like that.
But
really
new towns are predominantly houses.
Pardon?
New towns are predominantly houses, and there is no new town policy now.
Maybe not a new town policy, but we're still, building outwards all the time.
Well, that's because we can't build inwards, because the buildings are already there. Perhaps you've not noticed, never mind. I'll do Maureen.
Hello, Al.
Hello.
Al, what I wanted to know was, why'd you cut people off before they can get away then?
It rather depends on what they say.
Depends on what they say.
Sometimes people come on and their very first words are not broadcastable.
Do you know, like the fella come on earlier on, Alan, and said to you, hello again, and you said don't speak to people twice. Has he been on once tonight?
Yes.
Is that why you switched them off?
Yes.
I was wondering why you done it.
Well, now you know.
You cretin.
I know, yeah. Could be worse. I could be a scouser. How do, David?
How do, Alan? I'd like to talk about capital punishment, if I may.
Go on.
Well, I think it's wrong.
Fine.
Because you never know whether the person you've convicted is actually guilty of the crime that they've been tried for. We've had examples of this recently, Alan. Well, when I say recently, I mean in the last, when capital punishment, before capital punishment actually ended, such as the Bentley and Craig affair. We had Bentley was hanged for a crime that he actually didn't commit. It was the guy that was with him, the man Craig that was with him, actually shot the bullet that killed the policeman, and Bentley got hanged for it, and yet the man who actually shot him wasn't. He's now an engineer in the Isle of Wight or Jersey.
Because he was underage.
Pardon?
Because he was underage.
He was underage, but the question is, should we have hanged Bentley? Because he was...
Well, he was found guilty of murder.
He was found... Yeah, but he was educationally he was a bit retarded. He wasn't a full...
Well, the issue at the time wasn't whether he was a full shilling, but whether he did it.
Yeah, but it's a very complicated case. And it was,
I know.
It was simply an example I was
It's
using.
all hinged on an instruction shouted by one to the other, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was more complicated. It was. I know there was.
That was the basic
one of the
gist of it.
things,
No,
but
that
it
was the
wasn't
basic gist because the individual shouted, "Give it to him."
Yeah, but that wasn't the only thing that convicted him.
No, I wasn't suggesting it
There was a lot of things. I mean, for instance, the gun that Craig actually shot that killed the policeman was only accurate to about 6 feet, according to an expert witness at the trial. And yet, when the bullet was actually fired, Alan, Craig was something like 20 feet away from the policeman.
That doesn't mean he didn't intend it to
I
kill.
know it doesn't mean that, but there's a lot of things. It's more than just the fact that Bentley shouted, "Give it to him," or whatever he said.
That is what he said.
That's what he said.
Yes,
yeah.
that is why it was a dubious verdict, because does "give it to him" mean hand over the gun, give yourself up, as he argued, or does it mean give him the bullet out the gun?
Exactly. But that
was what
an
the case.
example,
That
Alan.
was what the case hinged on.
Exactly. So that was a case as an example. Another
However,
Go on.
However, there is no doubt that the individual concerned pulled the trigger and actually killed the policeman.
It's true.
No doubt at all about that.
But whether he intended to was a different matter.
No, that is not the person who we are debating. He certainly intended something to happen when he shot the gun. I don't think you can ever argue, I pulled this trigger with the gun pointed at the policeman who was coming towards me, but I actually meant to... There's only one thing you can say. I meant the bullet to go in his direction. And if you take that kind of action and it actually hits someone and kills them, you will be convicted of murder, rightly and properly.
But about that particular case, before we finish.
The issue of the person who, if I remember correctly, was the one that was put to death, was the one who gave the instruction. That was the one who was hanged.
Right.
And that one, the case hinged on whether he instructed him to kill, or as his defence claimed, he instructed him to surrender. The jury decided that he instructed his partner to kill.
But Alan, let's just use a bit of conjecture, if I may. But let's just suppose that he hadn't actually given any instructions of that kind. Let's suppose that Bentley didn't say give it to him at all. I reckon he would still have been convicted anyway, because of the fact that the policeman was killed.
You must conject away, but I don't play those games. There really isn't much point.
No, but my original point when I came on was that capital punishment was wrong for the reason that my original thing was that the person might not be guilty. Right. Now let's take another case.
Let's not bother. We don't need cases. I understand that point. We don't need graphics to get that across.
One point.
There are people who have been convicted of crimes they did not commit. Now, let us say, all right, if you put them to death, you can't correct it. But if you put them in prison for 10 years, you can't correct that either. You've taken 10 years of their life away. And you cannot correct that. So that is an argument, surely, for never, ever punishing anybody.
Of course not. No, that's not an argument for that.
I'm sorry, if you're going to say it is unjust to put somebody to death for a crime that we later discover they did not commit, then I'm going to say to you, then we cannot put anybody, we cannot punish a person at all, because we might find out later they didn't do it, and we cannot correct what we've done.
Well, Alan, if you do find out that a man that you've actually put in prison is not guilty, then you can release him.
And what good will that serve? What good will that serve? There is a case on record. You were quoting cases, I'll quote one to you, of a man that exactly that happened to, and they released him. How did they give him back his wife who left him? How did they give him back his children who changed their names? How did they give him back the 12 years of his life? How did they give him back the business that went bankrupt? How did they give him back any of that? They destroyed his life. So, I say to you, we cannot correct that. You can give him £1 million compensation. And I have to tell you, we did not. Well, if we cannot correct it, we cannot risk it.
We can't correct it.
Yours is an argument for saying that we cannot put people in prison.
My argument isn't that.
It is.
My argument is that
you're telling me that we have. You're telling me that we have no right to take the chance of punishing somebody.
No, I'm not saying that.
So you're perfectly happy to have innocent people in prison?
I'm saying we cannot, as a society, decide that we can put somebody to death, Alan.
Why not?
Because we, as a society, haven't got that right to do it.
Is that a purely emotional point, or is your reason for that we might do it wrongly?
No, the point...
Which is your point?
My
You
point
have a
is
choice of two. Which
a
one is
moral
it?
point.
We needn't have bothered with all this crap. If you're just saying it is wrong to kill somebody judicially, I'll agree with you.
That's correct.
Well, the arguments you were putting, all that nonsense about we might get it wrong, we might do this, it's all hogwash. It doesn't mean a thing. At the end of the day, it's a straightforward morality question. Can we justify the action? No, we can't. Let's not do it.
I
Simple.
came on to you, Alan, when I came on to you, I said that we shouldn't have capital punishment.
But then you started to give me this cock and bull story
I'm
about
not
we might
giving
make a
one
mistake. I'm
reason.
sorry. There is only one reason,
There
David. David, there is.
There's lots
The
of
only
reasons.
well, name another one then, because the one you've given me so far, not counting the emotional one, which I agree with, the
Right.
one you've given me so far is we might make a mistake.
Correct.
Well, if we are going to take no course, or a particular course is disbarred to us because we might make a mistake, then we have to accept that anyone we put in prison may well be put in prison as a result of a mistake, and therefore we cannot put them into prison.
accept that then.
Because we have no right to
Right,
take
I
anybody's
accept that.
liberty, have we?
Absolutely. Well,
So, let's hear your other point, David.
my other point, Alan, is that if we was to put somebody to death, then we're not doing anything for anybody, because if we put somebody to death, who is that helping? It isn't helping anybody. Even a lot of people say with this Moors murderers thing, to use an example, I know what you're going to say, that it isn't irrelevant, but to use an example, this Moors murderers thing, that a lot of people are saying that if we'd have actually put them to death, then the families wouldn't have been subjected to the horror and the terror and the ongoing thing that they are doing. But if we were to say that we put these people to death, then the sympathy would not just be with the families of the victims, but it would also be with the families of the people who were actually hanged. That's
So the
another reason.
So the point you're making is that if we put people to death, it might give some comfort or sympathy to the family
to their
of
families.
the assailant.
And another reason.
I don't see that as a valid argument. Let's hear the next one.
The next one is that in certainly a lot of these murderers.
Let me ask you a simple
actually-
question,
are
because
actually being-
we could be here all night. Let me ask you a question.
Certainly.
Do you think the reintroduction of capital punishment will deter anyone from committing the crime of murder?
Well, it never did before.
No, it might well have done. You don't know that. They may well
Well,
not
we
have
still
done.
had murders before.
No, we still had them. I didn't say whether it would deter everyone. You
All
obviously
right.
don't understand the
Okay.
language. I will ask you the question again. Do you think the reintroduction of capital punishment would deter anyone from committing the crime of murder?
It might deter the odd one or two.
Do you think it would? So you think it would deter some?
Yes, I think it probably
Well,
would.
when you said it serves no purpose, that is the purpose it is intended to serve. You say you say it would serve that purpose. Whether it would do it to a sufficient degree to warrant it or
Correct.
not is a matter of opinion.
Is a matter of opinion.
But you do accept that it would serve some purpose.
I accept that it might deter the odd one or two
No,
people.
let me ask you-
I admit it would serve some purpose. But on the other
settle for
side
that.
of the coin,
Well, we've heard the other side of the coin. I was just trying to find out what was on this side. We've heard the other side of the coin. You've been going on about it for 4.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know that as far as you're concerned, it is morally wrong for the state to take life.
exactly what I'm saying. Yes,
I'm glad
it's
to hear
morally
it.
wrong
It's-
for people.
I agree with you entirely on that bit. Howdy, Fred.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As regards Freemasonry, I would like to say that the ones that's been on the phone is supposed to be the lower hierarchy. Wouldn't it be nice for somebody to come on and say that they are in the hierarchy or just below the hierarchy and state their position as regards the position or as regards the Freemasonry?
Well, they'd probably get drummed out, you see, because it's a secret, and all their pathetic little wimpy friends would drum them out.
Yeah, we know they're a lot of prats, but it would be nice for them to come on now. I hope they're
Yes,
listening.
but they've not got enough honour to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
It's an interesting thought, but a pointless one, Fred. You're not
Okay.
going to get them on, you know what they are.
Yeah.
A bunch of immature little boys. They'd have to roll the trouser leg up, and it's cold at this time of night. All right, mate.
Right, thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. We shall talk to Anne very soon.
The box all over you're second to none. Lucas Levers, just give us a phone on Blackburn 5191.
Whether it's a new Vauxhall, a Bedford van or a quality used car, you'll be glad you chose Lucas Levers. There's not a lot we don't know about Vauxhall Opel, so put your trust in Lucas J&S Lever of Blackburn. Call 51191.
Lucas Levers, where you're number one.
The Red Rose Advertiser. It's a breakfast show, a morning market. It's a what's on diary and a blast from Beswick. It's the paper that's on your wavelength. The Red Rose Advertiser. And when it comes through your front door, look inside. Because all that's fit to be read is in the Red Rose Advertiser.
How do, Anne?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk to you about a new system that's being introduced to my children's school next term. It's called vertical grouping. I don't know if you've heard about it, have you?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
Well, I've got two sons, aged 7 and 6, and a 5-year-old daughter. Well, she'll be 5 next term. And because of this new system, they could all end up in the same class. What they're going to do is have classrooms with 30 children in each class and 10 of each age group, 5, 6 and 7-year-olds, but only still have the one teacher. Well, it sounds to me like they'll only be receiving 1/3 of their education because they won't be having the teacher's attention all day as a whole group, will they? And
well, it depends on what the criteria for deciding who goes into what classes.
Yeah.
If it's their, for example, and I don't know whether this is the case, but if it's their reading age,
yeah,
then let us presume, for the purposes of this conversation, that one child aged 5 has a reading age of 6 because he's clever.
Yeah.
One child aged 6 has a reading age of 6 because he's ordinary, and another child aged 7 has a reading age of 6 because he's a little bit behind all the others.
Oh, no, the headmistress said that this was because of a shortage of staff, or...
Well, yes, a shortage of staff may well have caused you to look at the way you use the staff, to use them more efficiently, but to grade them according to ability so that the teacher teaches a class of the same ability rather than the same age may well be more expedient than teaching children the same age. Imagine a teacher with a class of 30 pupils, 10 of whom are ordinary, 10 of whom are quite bright, 10 of whom are quite slow, all of whom are the same age. The teacher is either going to concentrate on the bright because he or she likes teaching bright kids, or on the dull because she wants them brought up to the level of the others.
Yeah.
Whereas if she has a class of 30 children, all of whom are the same intellectual capability range, but are all different ages, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because she's got to teach them the same things.
Yes, but like my
So
daughter...
she'll be giving one lesson instead of the 3 lessons she would have to give with a multi-ability class.
Oh, no, we've been told that they'll be taught in 3 individual groups by by the one teacher. Because my daughter, she's going into this vertical grouping, but she's only just coming out of nursery. Tomorrow will be her last day, so she can't even, write her name or ABC
So we don't know
yet.
her level, so it isn't what I said?
No.
Okay. Well, I'd need more information, but on the basis of what you've just said, it doesn't sound very clever.
No,
But if
well-
any teachers are listening, we'd be happy for an explanation.
Yes, the headmistress said that in Scotland that they've had success, with this, and that they've mixed 5-year-olds with children as old as 11. But I've never heard of it before, you see.
Well, you're not in the business, though, are you?
No.
You see, if I started to tell you some of the things we read about in the trade press for our industry, you might think, well, that's ludicrous, I've never heard of it. But of course you've not. The people in the business find out, the people outside the business don't really find out at all. So it may well be a perfectly sensible way of dealing with it. And if any teachers are listening, then we'd be happy to hear from them. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
How do, John?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
I'd just like to say, you make me angry sometimes. You
I
talk
don't care.
a load of claptrap about Freemasons.
Well, tell me about it.
You just talk claptrap, modern
Yes, well,
day
tell me about it. No,
society
I'm sorry,
is
excuse
coming
me,
out with
excuse me.
programs
John,
with a young DJ like you thinks he knows it all and can lecture us.
John, good night. I don't wait all day while half-brained pillocks prattle on. This is your last chance. Oh, you've gone, thank you. How do, Rob?
Hello, Alan.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell me what a Rotarian is.
Yes, a member of the Rotary. How do, Simon?
Hello, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk about something you said the other week, that you thought it was wrong that anyone who works should claim the dole and that you'd report them.
Yes.
I think that's wrong.
Why?
Because I think Like, if I can't find a job, which I can't, like, if I can get a little part-time one on me door, I think
I thought you said you couldn't find a job.
Yeah, well, I can, but if it
Well, you either can or you can't. Which is it?
Yeah, but it'll be nowhere near enough money. Not even for me, Keith.
Well, if that case, you simply, if you have a part-time job, explain the hours that you work and the days you work, and the days you work you don't get benefit. It is people who steal money that...
£4 a week benefit, I don't think that's very
Listen,
fair.
I am not suggesting that the unemployment benefit or the supplementary benefit is fit to live upon. What I am saying is if you steal it, then if I find out, will report you. If you think that is immoral, then there's something wrong with your morality. Good night. You are disgusting. Now do line 8, whoever that might be. Alan.
Hello, Alan.
Yes.
I'd like to talk about the extradition of the Liverpool football fans.
Yes.
I can't understand why there's an outcry in Liverpool, simply because had the European Cup final taken place, let's say at Anfield or Goodison Park, and 39 people had died, surely we then would have asked for the extradition treaty for whichever two teams may have been playing in the European Cup final. Let's say it was an Italian team and a Belgian team.
I rather suspect so, but the argument is that they will not understand what's going on in Brussels and that they will not get as fair a trial as they would if they were tried in Britain.
Well, I believe it's going to be in French, yeah, but they're going to have interpreters, so I don't think that holds up, really.
But what about the quality of justice in Belgium?
Well, I mean, it's just the same if they were brought over here. What they would say, what about the quality of justice in our country?
But we are arrogant enough to believe that ours is the best.
Well, I suppose we are, yeah, really.
Is it the best?
I like to think it is.
Well, surely they should be tried by the fairest system, not one of lesser quality.
Yes, but you still can't get away from the fact that, unfortunately, that did happen and they have to be tried.
Yes. If it can be shown that they are not being victimised, because, of course, there doesn't seem to be any shouting and bawling about the Italians who were there and were involved. I remember seeing an Italian point a gun in that stadium. I don't think he's being brought to trial. I'm not sure, but I don't know of him being brought to trial.
I heard something on the news today that they may have been tried in their absence or something, which I couldn't follow at all.
Isn't that interesting? Ours get extradited and theirs walk free.
I just couldn't understand there seems to be such an outcry in Liverpool. Plus, of course, they thought that there was something wrong in that the time limit had expired or something. Well, I don't think that really should come into it, like the judge said.
Well, if the time limit has expired, then we have to have things done properly and according to the letter of the law. They've already escaped extradition once because the process by which